Perth, Cornwall again, landing my first governor-in-charge post at Greenock in 1999. What a shock. No more can I take comfort in the fact that as a deputy, I can always say, wait till the governor gets in and we can ask him, as it was invariably him. It was now me who people were waiting for to get in to resolve issues, be they staff or prisoner related. And this brings me to my second lesson. Always look as though you know what you're doing, even if you don't. This has served me well over 27 years, and no 2 days, no staff situations, no 2 incidents are ever the same. Bringing gravitas and confidence to a situation when all around you may be losing their heads is key for a woman to succeed. No tears in public, no flapping, no throwing a girly hissy fit, just be calm, confident and assured, and then have a bubble later. I was to understand the importance of this when in 2001 I received the wonderful news that I'd been promoted to senior governor, for that time that was known as Governor 1. The thrill was soon tempered by the news that I was being deployed to the first woman in charge of HMP shots. That was the equivalent in those days of being in the army and being told you were to take up a tour in Afghanistan, but with worse weather. I was absolutely terrified, as the reputation of shots as the toughest in the system to manage was legendary. It lived up to its reputation. The perception of many at that time was that a woman could not succeed in governing prison and surviving. What a challenge. It was up to me to prove them wrong. After the faith and confidence that had been placed in me by senior people who had followed my career and worked with me as a deputy, I could not let them down, and that's my next key message. Work hard to gain the confidence of superiors and those who rely on you, be they staff, prisoners or the general public, for the job you do, not for your gender. Mind you, I did start to worry about this some years ago, when in discussion with a prisoner, I asserted to him that as a woman I was finding some of his attitudes unacceptable. He looked in a bewildered way at me and said, "Mrs. Parks, you're no a woman, you're a governor." I think it may have been meant as a compliment, if the jury's a bit out on that one. While one cannot and should not lose femininity, it's all about delivery. No excuses, no playing the victim, no persistent complaining, just get on and do it. Results are hard to argue with. The shots
I headed off to university in Sheffield, College of Law, and started as an article clerk with Norton Rose, a major law firm in the City of London. Again, while being fully aware of the feminist movement and supportive of it, at no time had I felt different or any discrimination or discomfort until 4 weeks into my traineeship, when I had an experience which is a polar opposite of what Audrey has had to experience in her life. As an article clerk in the City law firm, I was an article to a wonderful gentleman, Christopher Robinson, and I was to spend the first 6 months of my articles working for him in the corporate department, acting for companies and all sorts of transactions. I thought everything was going swimmingly until, en route to a meeting one day, Christopher, in a somewhat nervous and embarrassed fashion, explained to me that he had come to a major decision. He had decided that I was going to become an honorary chap. As a true gentleman, wherever we went, he had been opening doors for me. When we went to meetings, I had to go into the room first, as the most junior person in the room, not knowing who anybody was, and more importantly, the client having a clue who I was. Any heavy files or books that had to be carried, I certainly wasn't being asked to carry them, and there was certainly no question of late night working at all. All of this because as a gentleman, that's how he expected to behave towards me. I was the first female article clerk he'd worked with, and he had decided, after much deliberation, that if I was to have the full benefit of my articles, then I had to be treated exactly the same as my fellow article clerks. So I became an honorary chap. Files were carried, late nights were worked, and it was strange then to realise that somebody, me, having just thought it was perfectly fine for him to be courteous in a way, but he had actually seen that as differentiating me. How far we've travelled since then. And if I fast forward now to when I was running McGregor's, as a large UK firm, it wasn't unusual for us to hire over 60 trainee lawyers for each year. And we had a very sophisticated assessment and recruitment process, as we would receive several hundred applications for those very few places. And one year of our intake of 60, on the basis of the application of that strict process, over 55 trainees were female. And that actually gave us pause for thought as to whether or not it was the right thing to do. Following my traineeship, I worked in private practice and in industry in London before joining what was then McGregor. I'd been a partner in a firm in Covent Garden and was to be a partner in McGregor, provided I passed 2 tests. One was that I qualified as a Scottish solicitor, which I did straight away, and the second was going through a partner's route. This was my next brush with women being different. Prior to the partner's route, I discovered, to my delight and surprise, I was pregnant. At the time,